You're listening to the Marginally Geeky Show, the epically geeky book club.
Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show, episode number 72. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Before we start, if you're watching the video version of this, there are very few of you, but if you are one of the video watchers, you'll notice that we're trying something different. We're trying StreamYard for the first time. We may be moving all of our shows to it, simply for the fact that good old Skype just seems to be dropping the ball constantly. If you listen to the epically geeky show, we lost a good portion, well, not a decent portion of that show at the very end there. And I'm hearing other podcasts, same things happening. So we're trying something different. Who knows if this works really well, we may end up running shows again, but we'll see. No promises. That being said, if you're watching the video version, you may also notice we have a new member on the team. Joseph has decided to join us for our book club. And in fact, we are starting off with his book. The book for this month is The Last Wish, which is a collected series of short stories from The Witcher, correct? By Andrzej Sapkowski. Hope I got that right. So tell us, Joseph, why this book?
So actually, this goes back a few years now. Back when I had my job in Austin, and I was having that hour and 15-minute commute every day. I used to listen to podcasts and whatnot. And then one day, I kept hearing you guys talk about all the books you were listening to and the show, and it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. So I literally went on Audible, opened Fantasy, and I scrolled and I stopped. And that's the Witcher series is what it landed on. And I was like, I might as well start the first one. And that's how I chose this one. And I really liked it. It was much better than I thought it was going to be, which kind of made me really happy because it was kind of around the time when the first season of the show was about to come out. I'd played the video games and I was like, there's a lot of lore in the video game. I just wanted to see where it all came from. And so that's how it came. It wasn't some kind of like, oh, this is on my list of things to read forever. It was literally just happenstance.
That is the most Joseph answer I can think of. I'll be honest with you. So you previous to reading this, you'd played the games.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? I'll be honest. I completely forgot about that. I mean, my introduction to the Witcher stuff was the series on Netflix. So I hadn't played any of the games, and I should have asked about that. I'll go ahead and jump in here real quick. Initial thoughts. I enjoyed it. I do think it's helpful that I did watch the series first because I kind of had an idea about this world and this character and kind of some of the stuff that's going on. Otherwise, I might have been a little bit of, wait, what's happening here? Kind of like I was the first season of said show because it was not in chronological order, which I think was kind of a detriment at first, which is why the second season is in chronological order. I think enough people were just like, what is going on here? But that being said, I did enjoy the book. Kris, thoughts?
Like you, I watched the series first. And again, the chronological, like the back and forth totally messed with me. So when I was although it did help to read the book though, knowing that it was kind of a back and forth. I really liked the book. I listened to it, and it was the narrator who made everything better. Why are we only on the screen?
I'm playing around with stuff. I'm trying to figure this out.
I don't like to
that.
see
No, okay, I won't do that.
Too close.
Okay, fair enough.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
But I listened to it, and I think that's what made it was very interesting. The more I got into it, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting way of doing the fantasy genre. I didn't realize how old the book was. It's 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
No clue. And yeah, it was delightful.
Ray, initial thoughts?
So the intro for me to The Witcher is Witcher 3. I did start the game, and then I think other games kind of came out, and other people were bugging me for different times for maybe something to play online with like I can't remember Ghost Recon or like I don't know. It was
Something with helicopters.
yeah. Well, I got my time torn away from that and got playing that instead, which is cool. I actually remember when I picked up the game, we went to Fan Expo, and when I bought the game there, they actually gave me the statue of The Witcher that I got with it. We had no place for it because we lived in a cottage. I actually traded that in for credit at a place in Port Elgin that had a game store there, and they were able to give me some credit for that. So I was okay with that.
Nice.
So yeah, as for the book, I did listen to it. I didn't read it, and yeah, it was. No, I will preface this. I had to listen at 1.7 times speed, which I'm not used to, because there was a lot of news happening with my Maple Leafs, and I had to listen to a lot of podcasts on top of this. So, yes, I listened to it, and I may have missed a little bit of it because at 1.7 times I'm not used to hearing it at that speed. But I did catch up enough that I was able to slow it back down to about 1.2 after the last hour.
I didn't catch you say the 1 point, so I heard you say that I was listening to it at 7 times speed.
I was like, where is that in the Audible app? Like, let me keep scrolling down here.
The guy that used to do those micro machine commercials reading the book.
So I just downloaded it to my brain.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice. Sean, initial thoughts?
So like Ray, I started with Witcher 3 playing the game. I got about 80 hours into it and all that. And then I'm a completionist and I never finished that one, which has always bothered me. I keep thinking of going back to it, but it's so massive. And I'm like, the time commitment. Oh my God. And then I watched the Netflix series. It was Netflix, right? Or,
Yes. Yeah, it was on Netflix.
Yep.
So I watched it like everyone else in the world. Didn't like the time jumping around for first season. So that was my introduction to The Witcher, though. The book, I almost wish I hadn't played the game and watched the series before doing this book, because by the time I got to this book, like there was no real surprises because I'd already seen it in the games and I had already seen it in the television series. And once again, it was kind of jumping around in time because it's short stories, which annoyed the crap out of me. And I like from the Netflix series, I had like they did so good to copy the game. So I had Geralt voice already from Henry Cavill and Dandelion. Yeah. I freaking love the singer that they have for the Netflix series. So when he tried singing in the book, it's like, oh my God, it's killing me. It's so horrible.
I got to agree with you on that one.
So I didn't like the book probably as much as I could have because I had already built the world in my head, and in Netflix it helped me build it, and the game had helped me build it. So by the time the original come around the book, I was like, nah, it's not as good. It was all right, but it wasn't as good.
Fair enough. I mean, this is definitely another good example of this one's actually kind of interesting because most of the time there's the whole debate of read the book, watch the movie first, and now you've actually got three things going in there. Is like, do you start with the game? Do you start with the book? Do you start with the TV show? So that's kind of an interesting little caveat thrown into this one as well. So, but that being said, let's kind of jump into the book.
Eugene, about the Netflix series. Were you all as surprised as I was? It was very faithful to the book. I mean, they changed the name of Dandelion to, I don't remember.
Jasker.
Yeah. But other than that, it was like you could have picked a spot in the book and knew exactly where the show was going and vice versa.
And that was thanks to Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
He ran that, and man, the next season's going to be a disaster. I don't think I'm even going to watch it with replacing him.
Okay, the
So-
next season is with him. The one
Yeah,
after
but the
that
one after it
is,
is-
and I'll be honest with you, Sean. I may give the fourth season a shot, but I'm really kind of thinking third season's going to be it because I don't see how they can replace him
No.
as the main
Unless-
character. He is that character.
He is, and
Mhm.
unless they like give some sort of reason as to why Geralt looks different, they could make it up, whatever. Unless
But they didn't with Siri.
What's
They
happened?
replaced Siri between 1 and 2. I hated that.
yeah, I probably won't. I've seen pictures of Liam Hemsworth. I'm like, no, take your apple back, please. Thank you.
Well, let's get into the book. Favorite part of the book, Joseph.
I want to say either the fight with the Striga, because I painted a picture so well in my brain, and then it was like they took that picture and turned it into the Netflix adaptation of it, or the part with Dandelion getting strangled by the genie. I just thought that was funny more than anything. You know,
Yeah.
he was this super selfish bard trying to do something, and then of course when you find out that the exorcism that Geralt does didn't really mean anything, I was like, okay, that it was when I came across those, and that's like what, halfway through the first book, I think, is like, okay, I knew I was gonna like this. You know, those probably I think were the two things that stood out to me. They're the ones I still like vividly remember, you know, from reading the book.
Honestly, I like the fact that it is higher fantasy, but it also, like, there's a lot of humor in the book. Like, I really did enjoy a lot of the way that he interacts with people. Just like you said, like some of the characters are fantastic, but I like, if we're going to talk about a specific scene, the scene where he meets up with the guy that and I can't remember his name, the guy that looks like a monster, and he has all the women that are coming to him or whatever and staying with him. He basically treats them like a princess or whatever, and he's like, I'm not a real monster. Number one, that was also in the series, but it's just like I like the writing. I did enjoy the writing on this. And I'll go ahead and jump ahead and say that I'm considering continuing on with the series at this point. I will probably do one of the legitimate books instead of, like I said, this is a collection of short stories. So I'd be interested to see how the book is compared to, you know, the series of short stories. But I enjoyed the writing and the characters. So, Kris, what do you enjoy?
I don't have like a favorite scene. I think my favorite thing about the whole book was all the interesting retellings of fairy tales. Took me a minute to catch on. I'm like, oh, I see what you did there. I like it. So I think that's why I keep reading these things over the different retellings, because I want to see the author's twist on it. So I really liked Andrzej's different take on these common fairy tales. I thought that was really cool, and I loved the narrator. It was just so interesting to listen to him. Peter Kenny. It was just, yeah. So my whole favorite thing was just the different retelling of the fairy tales.
Nice. Sean?
I did like Dandelion getting that whole fishing scene.
Yeah.
When he was like, we're gonna eat so well, and Gerald keeps telling him, back off, it's gonna snap, and no, it'll be fine. And he goes on about the recipes and stuff like that. And basically anytime Dandelion was in it, like they're so good. It's like a Laurel and Hardy kind of thing. They play off each other. And it's like that in the Netflix series too, and stuff like that. But
they did a good job capturing that.
Yeah.
The humor, which it dulls the edges of Gerald when he's the brooding type and all that, and then he's more human when he's with him, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was really well written. those dialogue points and stuff like that. And the stories themselves, like the individual short stories, were all really good. I'll get to my qualms later on.
Well, actually, that was going to be the next question up. Was what was your least favorite thing, Joseph?
The way it was put together, I think I would have preferred like a chronological story,
a narrative full.
Instead of a bunch of little short stories.
Yeah.
To answer your question about the rest of the books, Eugene, because I read up to I finished book 3. I'll eventually start book 4 at some point in time. It does kind of get more into a more traditional sense as it moves along, except for I think it's called The Blood of Elves, where it's like a backstory that is all just like flashbacks.
Oh, jeez.
So this dude obviously loves his jumping around in time. So chronological storytelling is not his forte. So, least favorite thing. I like I said, I'm like you, Sean. I did enjoy the short stories. I thought each one had something interesting in it. But overall, yeah, it would have been kind of nice to have an ongoing narrative all the way through, because a huge character in the series, if you watch the TV series, is Yennefer. And she doesn't show up until the very end, and then that's actually how we get the name of the book is the Last Wish, because the whole time I'm just going, okay, all right, I guess I'm not really sure why it's titled what it is, but it is what it is. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, The Last Wish. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it was from this one short story. We picked this one thing from this one short story, made it the title, and just kind of crammed everything else in there. Actually, the other thing that drives me insane in this, and I understand this is a different, he comes from a different culture, different background, but the name Yennefer just drives me insane. Like, what, you really couldn't put a J in there? Like, it just drives me insane for whatever reason.
Considering most of the other names are more not that.
Yes. Like they're kind of out there, and they're more fantasy like, and it's literally like, we're going to take Jennifer and substitute a Y for a J, and I'm just like, what? So in fact, when I was watching the original series on Netflix, I was like, are they just like really butchering the pronunciation of her name? Like, is it something the way this person speaks? Like, what's going on here? And it's like, no, it's just how it's written. I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess so, whatever. So Kris, least favorite thing?
I don't know. I think the more I listened to it, the more I saw it as just girl remembering. So it didn't bug me, the time jumps back and forth, because I just made it like he's just remembering stuff and as he's recovering. Almost that I didn't watch, like Sean, that I didn't watch the show beforehand, because all I could see in my head were the actors that were portraying those characters. That's all I could see in my head while I was listening to it. So I kind of wish I had my own version, but other than that, that's it.
Sean, things you didn't like?
The main thing, and you guys already touched on it with the names, and it's, I don't know, it could be getting in my old age and all that. I'm having a hard time remembering names to begin with, but yeah, I have a hard time remembering Matt and Steve and Mark and Jennifer and stuff like that. So when the names are so out there and then start sounding similar, there's some of the stories I had no idea what character was talking. I got lost, and I'd like back it up and, okay, what's going on here? And then I like, screw it. What was it in Netflix? Oh, okay, I remember that person. Because I had to link it to something I'd already seen.
Right.
And this happened more than once, and that was frustrating as all get out. I like the stories, but yeah, just the names, I had a really hard time. And it wasn't just the people names, like it was the monster names and the locations, like even the names of the towns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy crap. Come on. But yeah, I get it. Like maybe these are they're more common in Polish. I don't know. That's,
Yeah,
it very well could be, and then it's just like, yeah, well, good on you.
yeah.
But maybe the publisher should like maybe rethink some of this stuff, like when he's bringing it to other languages.
Okay. Yeah, opinion on that.
Yeah.
So kind of skipping around here. And I think some of us already covered this. Would you read another book by this author? Obviously, you already have, Joseph. So, how many of the books have you read?
3 plus the one like side story.
Okay.
I think there are 8 in total, if I remember correctly.
Ooh, I didn't realize there were that many.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe there were 4, 5, but you know what? Friggin' did. We've done the beer can, so I mean that's like what 19 books. So yeah, I can handle 8.
Looks like there's 9.
There's
9.
Okay. Yeah, I like I said, I think I'll try one of the novels. You know, it's a little more put together. It's not, much short stories. I think I am going to give it a shot because, like I said, I have enjoyed the writing on it. So I kind of want to see where it goes. And I mean, I like the characters. So it's like, all right, well, let's see what they're up to now. So, Kris, would you read any other books by this author?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
I really like the series, and I like the first book, so why not? I mean, it might not happen anytime soon, but if I have a gap in my TBR, I'd be like, oh.
Ray, 3 quick questions because you were out for a second there.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
No problem. Favorite part of the book, least favorite part of the book. Would you read more by the author?
So favorite part of the book would probably be, I don't know. I like the gin fight. I thought that was really, I thought it was kind of an interesting fight. It was a good description. I want to know what the fuck his last wish was. I have an idea, of course, but they don't actually say what the last wish is, which I thought was hilarious.
What don't you like?
Yeah.
That they
This
didn't
could be getting the book and the series confused, but I don't remember if Yennefer didn't try to take the last wish for herself.
I think she did.
Yeah.
I think the last they explain a little bit in the series, Geralt links them
Yeah.
together.
Yes, and so I understand in the book that we listened to that yes, he's linked to her for forever, which is interesting, but we don't actually say what that last wish is.
No.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I'm like, fuck you. My least favorite part of the book.
Would you read?
And then would you read more by the author?
Yeah, like I'm in. I don't mind the writing style, especially if it was. We'll get into that. Yes.
Okay. Sean, would you read more?
If I don't think I would go out and intentionally like, oh, I'm going to read some more Witcher books and all that. And it's almost the same as the game. I like played it till I kind of got bored with it, and then I haven't really gotten back into it. And the book is pretty much the same. I kind of like, yeah, it was good. I'm done. I got other stuff to do.
Gotcha. Let me ask you about the game. So is the game just a series of missions, or is it like free world, open roaming? You can do a bunch of stuff, or
free world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then you stumble on these stories throughout. So it's cool. It is a good game. Like
It did win Game of the Year. Like, well, the third one did, right? Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's massive. It's a huge one. So
yeah.
Well, so much for playing that then. I have Zelda and Diablo 4 waiting for me.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be a little while.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. So, did reading the book impact your mood? If so, Joseph?
I would say yes. I mostly well, the first time I listened to it was on that commute, so it made the commute better, you know. But overall, I mean, those are the kinds of books I tend to gravitate towards anyway. I like random changes to things that are already part of the fantasy world, like the way Geralt does magic with his sigils. Like I thought that was cool, versus just having like a magic wand or whatever, or being like a spell sword, because he's not really a spell sword, you know. But yeah, so I would say it was one of those things when I first read it, I would actually look forward to the drive.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, there were times that we'd start a new story and I'm like, okay, well, where are we going now? And it'd take a little bit to kind of get into it. And then once we started kind of getting into it, especially if it was a story that was in one of the series, in the series, I was just like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember this. And I remember having a good time watching it and trying to kind of remember what happens. But yeah, there were at least, I don't know if I ever laughed out loud, but there were definitely times I chuckled, especially going back to the whole Jen thing. It's like Sean said, it's very well written. The wordplay between the two is very well done. It's very good. In fact, the stories that have the bard in it are my favorite of the stories. Like it's just flat out are the best ones, I think. Like you said, he tends to be a little too dark, a little brooding, and he needs that lighter play. So, and I almost wonder. I know the reason why. I'm blanking on his name. Who plays the character in the series? He's leaving not because originally the word came out he was leaving The Witcher, and everyone was just like, "Why are you leaving The Witcher?" I was like, "It's not because you're playing Superman, is it? Because that's not a good move. Like, don't do that." And it turns out that wasn't it. It's because he has issues with the production team. He's like, y'all are not doing the book, and that's what I signed up for. So if you're not doing the book, I'm out. And I almost wonder if the reason why they're pushing for changes is because they're like, yeah, the best part is when you're with the guy. So we're just going to write him in more. And personally, I would have enjoyed that, but I could also see if you're a purist, like apparently he is, being a little like, no, this is not what I asked for. Y'all are changing things up to try to make it more marketable or whatever. So, but yeah, I just kind of wonder. I mean, because he hasn't said he's kind of out and said, yeah, they're making changes, and that's why I'm exiting the project. But he hasn't full out said, well, it's because they're changing this or they're doing that or whatever. So, Kris,
funny side note: if I'm not mistaken, he missed the original casting for Man of Steel because he was playing The Witcher.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think it was The Witcher.
It was definitely a game, but I don't remember if it was The Witcher.
Yeah, but he's like King Nerd. He's awesome. Henry Cavill.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if y'all have seen. There's recently a video of him at some, and I didn't even see who the other person is, but they're asking. He's up there talking about Warhammer 40K, and someone else starts asking him. And he's just like, "Dude, we should play." It's just like, you're such an awesome.
He's right into it.
It's great. Yeah. So, Kris, how did it impact your mood?
Do tell. I thought it was the narration. So the narrator is that one of the questions? Because if it is no, is it gonna be? Because then I'll shush about it.
No, you give your answer. Go for it.
Okay. Anyway, so the narrator on Audible is Peter Kenny. He was a delight to listen to. I loved all the voices that he did. It was really, really good. So that was part of the reason I like to listen to it so much. And I don't know, it was just really, I thought it was fun, which is a very different feeling that I would get than watching the series. It's not fun. I just watched the first episode before we started the show, and I forgot how gory it was. But then when the bard was introduced, I'm like, am I glitching? Because that was not his name in the series. So what is it? And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, that's really cute what they did. So dandelion is dandelion, and the Polish translation for dandelion is Jaster. So that's why they named him that in the series. And I was like, that's really cool. And I like how they pronounce dandelion. Fancy. I thought that was fun. But yeah, I just really, really liked it. I'm having trouble remembering a lot of it, and then you guys talk, because I since read 5 books, so it's a lot of it got lost. But I'm remembering it as you guys are talking about it, and I just thought I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Ray, how did it impact your mood?
I was panicked.
Because the deadline.
I was getting too close to the deadline, and when you guys were like, "Oh, maybe Thursday," yes, Thursday. So panicked. I think
Next week, awesome. Yes, I can do that too.
Sean?
Neither highs nor lows. It was all right. I was happy that it wasn't one of the books that like left me enraged or crying because it's so boring or something like that. This was not one of them. This was like,
that's good.
Well, some of the choices that have made in this friggin' group. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to listen to this whole thing. Oh my God. But no, this wasn't like that. So that was good. I was happy with that.
Nice.
Once again, I think I was actually a little bit disappointed because once again, I playing the games and watched the Netflix series. There wasn't really any surprises, which like it's literally a recap that I'd already seen. So I was like, oh, God damn it.
Did the book remind you of any other books that you've read, Joseph?
No, the books. Well, let me phrase this better. There is a book in a game that where there's a story that had something that reminded me of that. So in Skyrim, there are books all over the place, and they have little short stories in them. And one of them is kind of like an indirect. It's one of the stories from the Witcher.
Okay.
And that I mean, I poured so many hours into Skyrim. I like it. When I heard that story, I was like, "Where do I know this from?" Before? Yeah, I know I've seen this before, and it was from that.
Okay. Not really. I mean, I haven't read a lot of fantasy. But like someone else said, it may have been Kris, I like this take on it. Well, Joseph also brought up the fact that like he wasn't running around with a wand or a staff or whatever. He was, he uses sigils to act, to do the magic or whatever. Plus the fact that like you said, he's almost like a spell sword, but not quite. It's an interesting take on it that the majority of his combat is brute force. Or I should say at least force, but there is the interesting, magical aspect to it. A lot of it is that's how you finish off the enemy, whether it be sealing him away or doing something like that, or protecting, protection spell so he can get in and use his strikes. But yeah, it didn't really remind me of any other books. To me, it's very natural why this became a game to me. The idea that, okay, well, you can collect different spells and, there's going to be a lot of, combat with, through sword or hand to hand. I'm just like, yeah, this is totally something I could, end up playing. Who knows? Maybe when I retire, I'll get back to it, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't think it really reminded me of any other books right offhand. So, Kris?
Not books specifically, but Geralt is a main character. He's a trope. He's the broody main male character, but with a heart, because he's got backstory. And there's a comedy relief as a psychic. So that nothing new about the characters or anything like that. That's in like pick up a romance novel. I mean, it's like throwing a rock. There's a broody main male character. I've read a lot of Geralts in my time. But yeah, not a book specifically for the stories. It kind of, sort of, as I'm thinking, reminds me a little bit of Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, only because it's different take on the fantasy and magic and stuff like that. So kind of remind me that it was just a different take on it. But yeah.
Okay. Ray, did it remind you of anything else?
I've never read the books, but I do know like what it kind of reminds me of is the Brothers Grimm.
Damon
just
and
yeah,
Heather.
just where it's a little bit of a different take on fairy tales, and it's a little bit different take on those types of stories, and so that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Okay. Sean?
No, not well. The Forgotten Realms series. One of the novels, I'm trying to remember what it was. Anyway, it's a collection of short stories with a lot of their popular characters.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way that was kind of written, it did kind of remind me. And it's strictly structure, because like they're both fantasy novels, but yeah, this was written it kind of like Brothers Grimm fairy tales, whereas Forgotten Realms is quite a bit different. But that's about the closest thing that I think I've read that's similar to this.
Okay. Let's see here. Do you have any angry questions at the end of the book, Joseph?
Not so more of a question, but more of a I would just like to know. I know they touch a little bit on in the book, and then I think it's the second season of the series about the actual mutations that they give the Witchers. But just to more like, who was the first one that figured out that could do that, and why cat eyes, and why is it specifically only cat eyes that they all get? Like, why not something else? And like where that kind of aspect came from, because that is the one thing for me that did not fit into the fantasy mold. Because in my frame of reference, you talk about mutants, you're talking about like Ninja Turtles, and it's something that happens like futuristic or X-Men or something like that, not a fantasy novel. So like what maybe it would be a question for the author, like what inspired you? Were you a huge TMNT fan? And then you just like, you know what? I'm going to give my guy mutant powers also.
Fair enough. I'm kind of like Ray. It would have been nice to know exactly what the last wish was. But I mean, I'm okay. I get the gist. I got the gist of what it was for the most part. But yeah, there wasn't, like I said, I also kind of made up my mind that I was going to continue reading these books. So part of me is just like, okay, well, whatever I don't know, and unfortunately nothing's really coming to mind, I'm just like, well, maybe I'll find out in the next one or somewhere along the lines, as I keep going. So nothing really kind of, was cliffhangery for me to say. So Kris, what about you?
Yeah, no cliffhangers. I think because I've watched the series and I'm kind of feel okay where I am in the story. I think more maybe interested to see Yennefer and Geralt's relationship in the book versus the series, but that's kind of it. I'm good where it ended.
Ray? I know I already stole yours.
Seriously, the book, The Last Wish. You got to tell us what the fucking last wish was.
Fair enough. Sean?
I'm probably gonna go with Joseph on this one. Like, there was definite incongruity between like fantasy and science fiction here with the mutations. Like, like it bothered me throughout the whole thing. Yeah, you're living medieval times, and yet about genetics, and like they never really get into that. Like they explain it like magic, I guess that's like the MacGuffin kind of thing. Like, oh, let's just explain it with magic. That always annoys me. But and that kind of lingered throughout the whole thing too. Like it was every story. It was like anytime they want to bring up mutations or something like that, like this isn't working for me. Like explain it more. If you give me a better reasoning behind it, because you just kind of are dancing around it and expecting us to believe it. They made it. Obviously, they haven't explained it too much in the books that Joseph has read so far, but and I don't know if they ever will, but yeah, that was probably the one lingering thing. Like when I was done the book, that was the one thing that I would think about.
All right. Well, two more questions real quick. Would you recommend the book? Why or why not? Joseph, obviously you would because you recommended it to us.
Yeah. I think anyone that likes fantasy novels, but wants, like Ray and Kris keep saying, like it's a like a different take on the genre, or if you like the original versions of the fairy tales as they were originally written until they got Disneyfied, you know, then I think it'd be cool to read.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, like I said, I've only read one of the books. I'm planning on reading at least one more, just kind of see how that goes. So yeah, and pretty much like what you said, it's especially if you've watched the series. I'd say if you've watched the series, be like, yeah, give it a shot. You know, at least give one of the books a shot. You know, if you like that world, especially considering how slowly things are coming out. Of course, I think a lot of us have already decided third season may be our last season of watching it, but I'm sure like everything else that's going on right now with the writer's strike, season 4 just got pushed way back. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. If you're itching for more Witcher, you may have to go check out the books or the game. Like you may have to just, you know, fire up the game and get your fix that way, because it may be quite a while before you see it on screen anymore. So Kris, would you recommend?
Yeah, I think I would recommend it to somebody if they were in a like reading slump, if they were, you know, just kind of, you know, not feeling it and wanted something to sort of kickstart that, especially if they like the fantasy genre. Yeah, because I've been wanting to read it for a while. So thank you, Joseph, for recommending it. Yeah, definitely. If somebody liked the fantasy genre, for sure.
Ray?
Yeah, depending on the person. Like if it was Sean, I'd say no. But but yeah, I don't know. As long as they liked fantasy and as long as they that style, then I think it would be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, like it depends on the person. They would have to like fantasy, but it's also, I think if they're into older style books of like fairy tales, Grimm's fairy tales and stuff like this might be a good gateway book into a more traditional fantasy for them. It does bridge between the different fantasies, which good on them. It and like it is 30 years old, which 1993 shouldn't be 30 years ago, but it is.
No joke. No joke.
30 years. So this was written in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When originally, 30 years old. Oh, yeah, 70s. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
It's like Dune, written in the 50s and 60s when Frank Herbert started writing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw something the other day that was talking about if they made Back to the Future today, he'd be going back to what, 1990 something.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Jeebus.
It's nothing fun. What would you?
I went out and kicked a puppy. I was so pissed.
Last question was about the narrator specifically. Joseph, what did you think of the narrator?
Oh, 2 thumbs up. He did a good job. But in my head, when I think about the parts that are singing, I hear the guy from the Netflix show, not the narrator.
Yeah, he can't sing. Sorry.
Yeah. I agree. I think the narrator was great. His take on the bard is okay. I understand it's his take, but yeah, there's just that character is just so ingrained from the Netflix series. It's like that is the one reason I would say maybe don't watch the series first and read the book. Although it doesn't matter once you watch the series, even if you go back and reread the books, you'll be like, no, this is how it should have been. So the only time I have come across someone singing in a book series that, you know, the narrator singing in a book series that was absolutely fantastic was when I read what was it? The Hobbit? I think it was The Hobbit, and it was read by
Andy Serkis?
Yes, it was read by Andy Serkis. So whenever he's actually singing, he's singing it as Gollum, and it's just like, well, this is just perfect, like fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it was great. Like honestly, if you haven't read The Hobbit, or it's been a long time since you've read The Hobbit, go find the version that's done by Andy Serkis, because he does, number one, he's a fantastic reader. He can do voices, he's got a whole span. His take on everyone is interesting, but of course, whenever he goes into Gollum, it's just like putting on an old comfy t-shirt. He just slides right into it. So Kris, we already know your thought on the narrator, but so you did enjoy him.
I did. Peter Kenny is awesome. He's like up there for me with like Jim Dale and Ray Porter. Just like, I don't know, just something about it. Just like hit ears in the right spot for me. So
gotcha.
I listen to more of whatever Peter Kenny narrated.
Yeah. I would say yes. He's probably one of the narrators I would probably go look for. Do we know if he reads the other Witcher books? Is he the constant narrator? Please tell me he's the constant narrator.
I think, if I remember correctly, he definitely does the next two.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't know about the rest.
That may be a problem.
Let me look at my Audible account real quick.
All right. Ray, thoughts on the narrator?
Yeah, and it was narrator. Yeah, I appreciate the narrator. I think even at 1.7 times, it was. I don't have ears, so
you're starting to lose your hearing. So
that too. That didn't help. But yeah, no, it was good. When I did listen to it at regular speed, I quite enjoyed the performance because that's what it was. It was performance of the book, which I appreciate. No offense to some of the other narrators out there, it's more of them reading the book to you. Mm-hmm. This was a performance of the book.
Yeah. Sean?
No, it was great. It like Ray said, this was a performance. It was, other than the singing, which I typically don't like in audiobooks at any point. Mm-hmm. And this just reinforced that. But no. Oh, and then I'm assuming he got all the names correct. I couldn't tell it. Dude, you could say anything and like for a name, and I'd have to assume it's correct. Especially since originally it was in Polish.
Yeah, no doubt.
Holy crap! Like 2 letters together doesn't necessarily mean that there is the same thing in Polish than it is in English.
So before the show started, I even took a second and asked the group. I was like, "How do you say the author's name?" Because I wasn't 100% sure. So
and you believed us because we didn't know. It's actually at the or I should have done it. It's at the end of the audiobook. Or at the beginning of the audiobook.
I should have paid more attention to it. So I just like to listen to the Auto hopes you've enjoyed this program. So,
that's like on my computer. Like I use that for like a ringtone.
Nice.
But no, narrator was great.
Nice. Well, that is our recap.
Confirm
of the book.
Peter Kenny does read the rest.
Oh, he does? Okay, excellent.
Yes.
All right, so that's because there's nothing. Okay, and I'm actually going to kind of reference here in just a second, but like the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, unfortunately, the original narrator that did the first 4 books, maybe 5 books, passed away, and so if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've read them. I think at the end of the book, they even did a quick interview with the new narrator, or maybe it was with Stephen King, and he even says he said when he passed, we were trying to figure out who was going to finish off the series, and we went with the guy we went with, and he was very nervous that. He's like, how am I going to fill these shoes? But he did an admirable job. It's not quite the same, but he did a good job. Like, so you can tell he definitely listened to some of the previous books and was like, all right, let me try to do either my spin or my good emulation on what's already there. So, because we've definitely talked about books where the narrator maybe hasn't changed, but the narration has changed, especially for some of the characters, and boy, that throws you off. So. All right, well, let's take a look at our next couple of books. We kind of shifted around the schedule a little bit to accommodate some folks. So Our next book for, even though this will be coming out in June, our next book for June is the House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klein. That's Chris's pick. What?
TJ Klune.
Clune. Okay, I got my phone may have must done that. So, July is my pick. Earthside by Dennis E. Taylor. August is, and I just had to add this, number one in customer service, The Complete Adventures of Tom Stranger by Larry Cordia. Sure, why not? And then September will be Jen's pick. Jen has moved back overseas, so yeah, so she wanted to swap around because she's a little busy getting reaccustomed. It's funny, every time she posts something about, like, I can't find this, they don't have this over here, I wanted to say, you did it to yourself, woman. Just saying.
Yeah, really.
You can't find Dr. Pepper over there. That's on you. But as soon as she has a pick for us, I'll post that. So let's move on to what else we've been reading. Joseph, you been reading anything else, or has this pretty much been all encompassing?
Oh, no. There's another book that I've been reading. It's called The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. It is like kind of in the same vein as Dune, just not so far in the future. And same thing, there's like one protagonist that's going to save humanity, and it takes place within the solar system, and they're planet hopping. And so far I've really enjoyed it. It is the first book in, I think it's a series of 5. So I may, depending if I like the way this book goes, I'm only about a third of the way through it. So far it hasn't completely turned me off to it. It's a little slow. That's the biggest thing. It's just a little slow. Like, I'll be listening to it at work and trying to pay attention, but it doesn't have me so like, what's the word I want to use? Like, enthralled, engrossed that I don't get distracted by something in the office, Right. So, but it was one of those things where I was like, I need something new to read, and I just Googled like fantasy / sci-fi novel must reads, and this one was on every single list I found.
Fair enough. I'll go ahead and jump in here real quick. I've actually I finished one book. It was actually really, really short. The last book that we read, one of the narrators on it was Nick Offerman, and Sean specifically said, he's like, I think I may be done with Nick Offerman. Well, literally the next book I jumped into was not only one that he narrated, but it was one that he wrote, and it's Good Clean Fun, and it's literally just about his shop that he has, his woodworking shop he has in California. And I enjoyed it just as someone who's a maker. It was just enjoyable listening to him because he doesn't go into any kind of real politics or anything. It's just very simple. This is good. Yeah. This is the type of woodworking that we do. And here are the people, and he literally goes through and lists the people that work there. And there's a little bit of an interview with some of them. And he talks about, what they bring to woodworking and to his company. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you're not done with Nick Offerman's voice, you might want to check that one out, especially if you want to steer away from any of his political views or anything like that. This is, like I said, this is basically just, do you like woodworking? Cool. Here's a book for you. So the other one that I'd have to go back and look. It's a long book, but it's also a novel by Stephen King. So that's to be expected. I want to say it's 28 hours long. So it's going to be a good read. It's called Fairy Tale. It came out just a year or so ago. It's won lots of awards. Hopefully he sticks to the landing. It's a Stephen King, so sometimes you never know. But what's interesting is it is his take on, a lot of it is exploring his take on traditional fairy tales. And much like, with The Witcher, he's referencing the fact that, there's the real version, the original version, and then there's this Disney sanitized version. And in this world that he's exploring, it's definitely more the original, story type stuff. So, the monster that, gets away, in the sanitized version, or, gets off, scot-free, is actually pretty decent killer in this thing. So, but yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. It's essentially what happens is this high school kid befriends this old grumpy ass man who has this really old dog. The old man passes away. The dog ends up coming to him. The dog is close to death as well, and the old man tells him that there's this basically secret portal to this other world that he actually extended his life. He's like, when I'm actually like 120, 130 years old, and I was able to do it by extending my life in this other world. And I know what you're thinking. If you're thinking you're going to end this dog's life, I don't blame you, but be careful, because there's some really bad stuff there. And so we've gotten to the point he's entered this other world, and that's what his goal is he's trying to figure out, can I get this dog to this special place and extend its life, because he's fallen completely in love with this old dog. So, as an animal lover, I'm just like, yeah, totally. Yeah, let's go. So
well, the book is an isekai.
Do what?
The book is an isekai. There's an entire genre of anime that is basically everything you just described.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Knowing Stephen King, he may have stumbled upon that and got into it and like, all right, this is going to be my take on it. Because I mean, Salem's Lot is his version of Dracula, and he's even written several other books. He's just like, no, this is my version or my take on this thing or this genre, which I appreciate. So, and I have to say, I don't do Twitter anymore, but I have to say, props on the man for being very, for being quote unquote the king of horror. He is very much, oh no, this was a fantastic horror movie and this director is awesome. You need to go check out all their stuff. Or this is a fantastic book series. You need to go read this author. Like he's very much promoting other people. So, and I appreciate that about the man. So, Kris, what else you been reading?
A bunch of stuff.
I'll be back. Give me a while.
So I brought them all down. I don't know why, just so I remember. Okay, so there's this one called Shadow Fallen by Sheridan Kenyon. She's one of my favorite romance novels, but she had a bit of a personal issue a while ago, and she has come through whatever it was. So
is that the Witcher on the front?
It could be. Look at that guy.
Kind of looks that way.
But he's very much like Geralt. It takes place in during William the Conqueror's time, and he's his bastard brother. And dark and broody things have happened, and this woman comes along and just makes it better, which is stuff I like to read. This one's really cute. This one's called Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. It's his first novel. Look at it. Look at the orcs. Look how cute they are. It's literally this orc. Her name is Viv. She's just tired of battling and death and gore and stuff, and stumbles across this gnomish drink called coffee and decides to open a coffee shop. So cute. It's just adorable. And then I read 2 Harry Potter books, and now I'm reading this fucking thing. It's 800 pages. It's called Crescent City, The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. It was recommended. It was recommended in the bookstore, and there's another one, but it's dense. There is so much information that the info dumping in the first 60 pages is a lot. I mean, you're introduced to like 30 different characters, like 6 different types of magic. Half an entire wolf pack and her best friend fucking dies, like in the first 60 pages, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So it's a lot. I still have like 300 pages left to read. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Okay.
That's it. Oh, and I'm listening to Prisoner of Azkaban.
Ray, you read anything else?
I started reading another book. This one's for work, so forgive it, but I do have to recommend it. If you're into anything human performance wise or safety wise, sorry, Sean, but I have to recommend this one. It's called The 5 Principles of Human Performance, and it's by Todd Conklin. Highly recommend it. The guy makes it entertaining. So if you ever go on YouTube and you search Todd Conklin, he's got a bunch of videos up. Try and seek the ones that are about an hour long or like 45 minutes long. Those are the ones that he just tells stories. And it's stories about work, and it's about stories of basically why you shouldn't fire your workers for making a mistake, and really trying to dig into what's going on at work. And thankfully, I got into this when I did, and it's where the industries are starting to really head, which I appreciate. So, yeah, that's kind of our go-to. If anybody brings up, hey, it's human performance, it's like, well, humans are fallible, right? Like they'll make errors. So what'd you do? What do we,
Nice.
let's learn from that. So yeah, anyway.
There you go. All I can think of the whole time you were saying that was, I think it was an episode of TNG with the Klingons, and one of the Klingons does like fails, and they kill him, and the Starfleet, talks to him or whatever. And he's like, why didn't you properly punish, the human? And he's like, because then they don't learn. If you kill them, they pretty much don't learn at this point and can't get better. And like, that was a hard lesson to learn for the Klingon. Anyway,
just be better.
Yeah, just be better. So, Sean, you've been reading anything else?
I listened to E-Day by Nicholas Smith, and it's the first part in a trilogy. It's in the future, and humans have screwed up the world, and one side is AI is salvation, where the other side, the other faction, is AIs are going to kill us all, kind of thing. And human augmentation and cybernetics and the whole 9 yards. It was all right. They used a lot of tropes like samurais and stuff like that, and got a little bit gory in parts. And I don't know. I don't think I'm going to continue with the series. And then I started listening to what was it now? We'll Save the Galaxy for Food, which is kind of a humor-based. Humans are out in space, and they discover instantaneous travel, which puts all the space pilots out of work. So this is from the point of view of a pilot that's like trying to do like tours and like sets up like his little tours with, oh, we're getting invaded by pirates, kind of spice things up and shit like that. Anyway, he takes on a job where the employer, she hired someone else and they just took all the money and ran. So this guy is like gonna sub in because her boss is like the head gangster of like the universe kind of thing. So if she fails, she's dead. It turns out that the guy he's impersonating is a novelist that rips off all the stories from other pilots and sells his books. So every pilot wants to kill him. No one knows who it really is. And then all of a sudden he's got the name. So it's just a comedy of errors and all that. I'm about halfway through it. It is pretty funny. So it's read really well. It's by Yahtzee Croshaw. But yeah, it was one of those Audible recommendations. Yeah, sure, I'll give it a try.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's where I am right now.
Okay. Well, that is our show for the month, ladies and gentlemen. If you would please give us a 5-star rating on Google, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen to the show. You can also find the show on YouTube at our channel, Epically Geeky. You can find all of the shows on epicallygeeky.com, including the Epically Geeky Show, Creatively Geeky Show, and Sustainably Geeky Show. We're not really on social, but you could find us at Epically Geeky if you really wanted to. On the other hand, where could we find you online, Ray?
The Reluctant Yeti on Instagram when I start posting again.
Nice.
And correcting all the shit that friggin' Sean fucks up on the internet. Sorry, students.
Kris, where can we find you online?
On Marginally Geeky, well, this show, because that's what we're doing right now. Creatively Geeky, Epically Geeky, sometimes on Sustainably Geeky, and on Instagram at Movie Midlife.
Sean, where can we find you online?
The Mac Daddy of the Geekies. I'm on there on occasion. And your favorite broken toy, Canadian version, on Instagram.
Joseph?
If you Google me, something will pop up.
Fair enough. Is that like a furry blanket you have in front of you?
It is 10 minutes before I'm supposed to feed him dinner. So he's
okay.
very, very affectionate right now, trying to get early dinner.
Gotcha. I understand that. And as always, you can find my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Chain on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone's site, have a good night.